Maracade arrived at Virex Prime Annex on a slow cargo shuttle that smelled of coolant and old metal. The station hung above a pale blue gas giant, its rings cutting light into thin silver lines. Hundreds of cadets moved through the docking halls every hour, loud voices in dozens of alien languages filling the air. Most arrivals were greeted by friends, officers, or staff. Mara stepped off alone. She wore a plain human military uniform. No medals, no markings beyond her rank pin. Her hair was tied back tight, her boots clean but worn. She carried one bag, light enough to lift with ease. She walked calmly, eyes forward, posture straight. To anyone watching, she looked ordinary. That was why no one paid her any respect. Humans were new to the Galactic Union. They were known, if they were known at all, as fast breeders from a high-gravity world with short wars and loud emotions. Other species thought humans relied on numbers, luck, and reckless courage. They did not think humans lasted long. The Academy staff barely looked at her papers. A clerk scanned her ID, frowned once at the clearance locks on her file, then waved her through. The file stayed closed. It always did. Mara followed the signs to the cadet housing ring. The corridors grew louder there. Groups of trainees walked together, laughing, boasting, comparing scores. Tall, armored species brushed past smaller ones without apology. Power decided space here. When Mara reached her assigned unit, the room went quiet for a moment. She was the only human in a mixed-species squad. 4 of them were almost twice her height. One had armored plates along his arms. Another had eyes that reflected light like glass. Someone snorted. "So that's it?" one of them said in broken standard. "That's the human transfer?" Mara set her bag down on the empty bunk and nodded once. "Lieutenant Mara Cade, assigned to Squad 17. No one returned the greeting. The armored one leaned closer, looking her up and down. "You're small," he said. "Did they send you here by mistake?" Mara kept her face neutral. "Orders don't make mistakes." That earned a few low laughs. From that moment, the tone was set. Training began the next morning. Physical drills first. The gravity in the gym was set to local standard, lighter than Earth's. The aliens moved with ease, stretching limbs and flexing muscles built for this environment. When the whistle blew, they ran. Mara ran too. She did not sprint ahead. She did not fall behind. She kept a steady pace, breathing slow and controlled. Sweat formed at her hairline, but her steps never broke rhythm. One of the cadets clipped her shoulder by accident during a turn. She stumbled, caught herself, and kept running. No complaint, no glare. Strength trials came next. Heavy lifts, resistance pulls, impact endurance. Mara's scores were average. Not weak, not impressive. Exactly what her squad expected from a human. They started pushing harder. During obstacle courses, her assigned partner released safety lines a second too early. During simulations, her inputs were overridden. In sparring, opponents ignored stop signals just long enough to bruise ribs or twist joints. Mara said nothing. At night, while others rested or socialized, she studied tactical history, alien doctrine, union law. She memorized layouts of the station and emergency protocols. She practiced controlled breathing until her heart slowed and her thoughts sharpened. She slept lightly, always aware of sounds around her. Weeks passed. Her squad decided she was harmless. They talked freely around her, mocking humans and their short memory for loss. They joked about Earth wars as if they were small border conflicts. One cadet claimed a single Union cruiser could have ended any human resistance in days. Mara listened. She never corrected them. The Academy ranked cadets publicly. Scores flashed on shared displays. Mara's name stayed in the middle. Safe. Forgettable. The bullies focused on other targets. Louder ones. Prouder ones. But sometimes, instructors watched her longer than necessary. During a live fire exercise, a target drone malfunctioned and veered toward the squad. Confusion rippled through the group. Shouts overlapped. Orders clashed. Mara moved. She didn't run. She stepped into position, calculated the angle, and fired 3 shots in quick succession. The drone dropped, clean and silent. She lowered her weapon and stepped back into line. The instructor stared at the smoking wreck, then at her. "Lucky," he muttered. Mara said nothing. That night, one of the bullies tried again. In the narrow corridor outside the bunks, the armored cadet blocked her path. His friends watched from a distance. "You don't belong here," he said. "This place breaks people like you." Mara met his eyes. Her voice was calm. "Then, it will break me." The answer confused him. He stepped aside with a grunt. Behind locked doors, Mara finally allowed herself to sit on the bunk and breathe. Her hands shook for a moment, then steadied. She pressed her palm flat against the metal wall, feeling the vibration of the station. Safe, controlled, not like before. Memories stayed where she kept them. Buried, ordered, labeled. She did not let them rise. She had learned long ago that attention was dangerous. Visibility got people killed. Survival meant becoming background noise. That lesson had cost her everything. The Academy announced upcoming combat simulations, full squad rankings, and public observation. Excitement buzzed through the station. Reputation was built or destroyed in those matches. Mara read the notice and felt nothing. She trained as always: eat, drill, study, sleep. Still, something shifted. An administrator reviewing rosters paused at her name. The sealed file tag caught his eye. Curious, he tried to open it. His console demanded higher clearance. He frowned and flagged it for review. The request traveled quietly up the system. Mara walked past a display showing past graduates. Heroes of the Union. Tall, armored figures, frozen in victory poses. She did not stop to look. She had seen enough statues. On the eve of the simulations, the squad gathered to plan strategy. No one asked Mara for input. She listened anyway, mapping weaknesses, predicting mistakes. When they finished, the armored cadet pointed at her. "Just stay out of the way tomorrow." Mara nodded. Understood. As the lights dimmed for sleep, she lay on her bunk staring at the ceiling. The hum of the station blended with her breathing. Somewhere, deep in the data core, a file was opening for the first time in years. Names, dates, casualty lists, survival percentages that made no sense. Mara closed her eyes before the memories could push through. Tomorrow was just another day. That was what she told herself. But the station, the academy, and everyone who thought they understood humans were about to learn a simple truth. Some people were quiet not because they were weak, but because they had already survived things that never let you be loud again. The morning of the simulations arrived with a low, station-wide tone that echoed through every corridor. Cadets woke fast, energy sharp and loud. Armor plates were checked twice. Weapons were cleaned again and again. Reputation was on the line, and everyone knew it. Mara Cade woke before the tone. She always did. She sat on her bunk and stretched slowly, careful with an old ache along her ribs that never fully went away. It did not stop her. It never had. She washed, dressed, and secured her boots with steady hands. Outside, the halls were crowded. Excitement buzzed like static. Large screens showed brackets and match pairings. Names climbed and shifted as final checks completed. Mara found her name near the bottom of the list. Opponent, Koreth Veln, a heavy combat species, high score, crowd favorite. Her squad noticed and laughed. "That's going to be quick," someone said. "Try not to break." Mara nodded once. She did not argue. In a quiet office far from the noise, Administrator Hessian stared at his console. The sealed file request had finally returned with partial clearance approval. Not full access. Enough to read summaries. Enough to raise concern. He opened it. The first page loaded slowly, as if the system itself hesitated. Human Expeditionary Forces. Emergency Coalition Command. Field rank. Lieutenant. Acting Commander. That alone was unusual. Humans rarely held acting command roles outside their own fleets. He scrolled. Engagement 1. Survival rate, 12%. Engagement 2. Survival rate, 9%. Engagement 3. Classified. Hessian frowned. Those numbers were not training exercises. Those were extermination-level outcomes. He continued reading. Notes appeared from different commanders, different species, different years. The tone changed from formal to personal. Subject demonstrates extreme threat recognition. Adaptation speed exceeds projected limits. Unit survival directly linked to subject's command decisions. Hessian felt a chill creep along his spine. This was not a cadet record. This was a war record. He leaned back and looked at the name again. Mara Cade. No medals listed. No commendations displayed. Only denied awards and redacted footage tags. Why was someone like this here? He sent a silent alert to the head instructor and closed the file before he could read more. His hands shook slightly. On the training floor, Mara waited in the staging area. She stood alone, helmet under her arm, eyes calm. Around her, other cadets stretched and boasted. Korath Veln towered over most of them, armored plates shining. He glanced at Mara and dismissed her without a second thought. Try to last, he said, voice deep and amused. Mara met his gaze briefly. I will. The words were not a threat. They were a statement. An instructor's voice boomed across the hall, calling the first set of matches. Crowds gathered behind energy barriers. Betting channels lit up. No one placed odds on the human, except one quiet instructor who had just received a message from Administrator Hessian. The instructor read it twice, then once more. His expression hardened. When Mara's match was called, the noise grew louder. This was entertainment to most of them. A strong cadet against a weak one. Easy points. Mara stepped into the simulation arena. The environment shimmered and resolved into a broken urban zone. Collapsed structures. Narrow alleys. Limited sightlines. She felt her breathing slow automatically. Korath laughed. Unlucky terrain for you, he said. Nowhere to run. Mara said nothing. The signal sounded. Korath charged immediately, heavy steps shaking the ground. He relied on power and intimidation. Most opponents broke under that pressure. Mara moved sideways, disappearing into the rubble. The crowd reacted with confusion. She's hiding. She's scared. But the instructors leaned forward. Mara used the terrain without thinking. Angles. Cover. Noise control. She moved when the echo of Korath's steps masked her own. She waited when dust settled. Korath smashed through walls, growing angry. His strikes were strong, but wide. Predictable. Mara marked patterns, timing, breathing. She did not attack. Not yet. Minutes passed. The crowd grew restless. This was not the quick defeat they expected. Korath roared and fired blindly down an alley. Energy scorched stone. Mara waited behind cover until the shots ended. Then she moved. 3 precise actions. Disable sensor. Jam targeting. Strike joint. Korath fell to one knee, stunned. The arena went silent. Mara stepped into view. Weapon steady but not raised to finish. The simulation registered the advantage and ended the match. Victory. Mara Cade. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the noise exploded. Not laughter this time. Shock. Questions. Confusion. Korath stared at her, breathing hard. What are you? He demanded. Mara lowered her weapon. Tired, she said simply. She left the arena without another word. Behind the scenes, administrators scrambled. The partial file had spread. Instructors whispered to each other, pulling up restricted summaries, piecing together fragments. A human fleet lost in deep space. An enemy species erased from public records. One ship returning. One officer surviving. Mara's squad watched her differently when she returned. No jokes. No comments. They moved aside without being asked. She cleaned her gear and prepared for the next round as if nothing had changed. But everything had. By midday, the rumors had grown teeth. Cadets spoke in lower voices. Some avoided her path. Others stared openly. Curiosity mixed with unease. Someone finally asked her, "What did you do before this?" Mara paused. She considered the question. Then she answered honestly. "I followed orders," she said. That answer spread faster than any boast. Administrator Hessian watched the rest of the matches from his office. He finally opened the file again. This time with full authorization granted by a nervous superior. The footage was worse than the reports. Dark screens lit by weapons fire. Human voices calm under impossible pressure. Mara's voice among them, steady, giving instructions while alarms screamed. He closed the file with a shaking hand. Out on the station, Mara stood alone near a viewport, watching the gas giant turn slowly. The colors reminded her of nothing. That was good. She felt eyes on her, but she did not turn. She had been seen now. That was dangerous. The next rounds would be harder. Not because of opponents, but because once people learned what you had survived, they stopped treating you like a person. They treated you like a warning. Mara exhaled slowly and prepared herself. The past was catching up, and there would be no hiding from it much longer. The station felt different after the second round ended. It was not louder or quieter, but heavier. Conversations stopped when Mara Cade walked past. Some cadets stepped aside without realizing they were doing it. Others watched her with careful eyes, as if she might suddenly change shape. Mara noticed everything. She always did. But she did not react. She followed her routine. Train, eat, study, sleep. Only now, people watched her do it. Instructors no longer ignored her presence. During drills, they asked her questions. Not casual ones. Real ones. Tactical ones. When she answered, she kept her replies short and clear. She did not try to impress. She never had. Her squad no longer joked at her expense. The armored cadet who once blocked her path now avoided standing too close. When they planned for the next simulation, they waited. Finally, one of them cleared his throat. "Lieutenant, do you have input?" Mara looked at the display. Terrain layout, enemy composition, time limits. Her mind already had the outcome mapped. "Yes," she said. She spoke calmly, pointing out choke points, escape routes, and timing windows. She did not raise her voice. She did not claim authority. She simply explained. When she finished, no one argued. They followed her plan. The next simulation was a squad engagement. Mixed species teams, unfamiliar command structures, limited communication. The kind of chaos that usually broke coordination. When the match started, confusion spread fast. Orders overlapped. Two cadets moved to the same position, leaving another unguarded. Mara stepped forward. "Hold," she said, voice firm but even. "You left flank, you, high cover. Move now." They moved. Not because she outranked them, because her voice sounded like certainty. The squad adapted. They flowed through the environment like a single unit. When the simulation ended, they stood victorious, barely breathing hard. The crowd reacted with something close to disbelief. Mara stepped back again, letting the instructor speak. She did not look for praise, but she felt it now. The shift. Fear had been replaced by something else. Respect. That was worse. By the third day, the academy faced an unexpected problem. Cadets began requesting transfers out of matches that involved Mara Cade. Some claimed injury. Others cited stress incompatibility. One outright refused, citing unacceptable risk. That caught the attention of command. An emergency meeting was called. Senior instructors gathered around a holotable, Mara's file projected in the center. The redacted sections were fewer now. Enough had been revealed to paint a clear picture. "She's not aggressive," one instructor said. "She doesn't seek dominance." "That's the problem," another replied. "She doesn't need to." They debated what to do. Removing her would cause questions. Keeping her would continue to unsettle the cadets. The decision was made for them when the station alarms sounded. Not a drill. A real alert. The lights shifted to warning amber. Automated voices echoed through the halls, calm and precise. Unidentified vessels detected. Simulation error confirmed. This is not an exercise. Cadets froze. For a split second, no one moved. Then panic threatened to take hold. Mara was already moving. She checked the nearest display, absorbing information faster than others could read it. 3 hostile signatures. External breach possible. Defense system cycling. She turned to the nearest group of cadets, some of whom had bullied her weeks before. "Listen," she said. "You don't have time to be afraid. Follow instructions and you live." The words were simple, flat, honest. They followed her. Mara organized teams in seconds. She did not shout. She assigned roles based on position and ability, not rank. Those who hesitated were given simple tasks. Those who acted quickly were given more. Instructors arrived moments later and found order where chaos should have been. "She's already running it," one whispered. The breach alarms sounded again. A section of the outer ring had been compromised. Emergency shutters slammed shut, but a small group of hostile boarding drones slipped through. Simulation or not, station safety was at risk. Mara led the response team herself. The corridors were narrow. Lights flickered. The air smelled sharp and metallic. Cadets clutched their weapons too tightly. Mara moved at the front, senses sharp, posture relaxed. This environment was familiar in a way she wished it wasn't. She signaled a halt. The team stopped instantly. A drone rounded the corner ahead, weapons spinning up. Mara fired once. It dropped. No wasted movement, no hesitation. They advanced, clearing corridors, securing doors, her voice steady in their ears. Each command was clear. Each decision measured. No one questioned her. By the time station security arrived, the threat was contained. No injuries, minimal damage. Silence followed. Then noise. Excited voices. Shaken laughter. Relief. An instructor approached Mara slowly. "Lieutenant, where did you learn to do that?" Mara removed her helmet. Her face was calm, but her eyes looked older than before. "Some lessons only teach once," she said. Later, in the quiet after the crisis, the Academy command requested her presence. The room was formal, walls lined with Union symbols. Senior officers sat across from her. "You acted without official command authority," one said carefully. "Yes," Mara replied. "You exceeded expected response parameters." "Yes." A pause. "But you prevented casualties." "Yes." They studied her. Finally, one spoke softly. "Why didn't you tell us who you were?" Cries. Mara thought about the answer. About the past. About the weight that came with being known. "Because every time people learn," she said, "they stop seeing what I can do now. They only see what I survived." The officers exchanged looks. "You will finish your training here," the commander said. "But things will be different." Mara nodded. "They already are." Word spread through the academy faster than any official report. The story changed with each telling. But the core remained. The human lieutenant had taken control. Not with force, with clarity. From that day on, no one tried to bully Mara Cade. Not because they feared her strength, but because they trusted her to keep them alive. And that kind of trust carried a weight no one wanted to challenge. Mara stood once more by the viewport, watching the gas giant turn. She felt the familiar pressure behind her ribs, the memories knocking. She breathed slowly until they faded. There was one simulation left, the final, and she knew, with quiet certainty, that it would not be the hardest thing she had faced, not even close. The final simulation day arrived without celebration. There were no loud announcements, no excited crowds. The academy felt careful now, like a place that had learned it could be hurt. Mara Cade woke early, as always. She sat on her bunk and waited for her breathing to settle. The ache in her chest was stronger this morning. A deep pressure that came when the past knew it was close to the surface. She acknowledged it and pushed it back where it belonged. She dressed in silence and left the housing ring. Cadets watched her pass. Some nodded. Some straightened without meaning to. No one spoke. The old jokes were gone. The careless cruelty was gone. What remained was distance, and something like respect. The final simulation was different from the rest. No brackets, no simple goals. It was a command-level scenario, meant to test leadership under collapse conditions. Mixed units, broken communication, civilian assets at risk. The kind of situation the Union feared most. Mara read the briefing once. She did not need to read it again. The instructors gathered the participants. A senior commander explained the rules, but his eyes kept drifting toward Mara. He looked uncomfortable, like someone standing too close to a known fire. Once inside, he said, you will receive limited data. You must adapt. This exercise will push you beyond doctrine. Mara already knew. The simulation environment formed around them slowly. A damaged station cluster. Power failures rolling through interconnected habitats. Fires. Air loss. Panic signals flooding channels. The noise was immediate. Cadets began talking over one another, trying to establish command. Multiple voices claimed leadership. Orders conflicted. Teams froze. Waiting for clarity that did not come, Mara waited 3 seconds. Then she spoke. All units, she said, voice calm and level. Stop transmitting unless addressed. You're wasting air. The channel went quiet. Mark your position. If you are injured, say so now. If not, prepare to move. One by one, reports came in. Scattered. Confused. But coming. Mara listened and built the map in her head. She assigned priorities without hesitation. Seal breaches. Restore power. Move civilians away from unstable sections. She split forces carefully, knowing exactly how much risk each team could handle. No one argued. They moved. The simulation fought back. Secondary explosions, false data, sudden losses of contact. A less experienced leader might have panicked. Mara adjusted. When one team failed to respond, she rerouted another without comment. When a route collapsed, she chose the longer path without regret. She did not cling to plans. She did not hope. She adapted. An instructor watched from the control room, hands clasped tightly. She's not reacting, he whispered. She's already ahead. Another instructor nodded slowly. She's done this before. Inside the simulation, a civilian shelter lost pressure. Cadets hesitated, calculating time and risk. Mara made the decision instantly. Team 4. Go now. Seal from the inside. You have 90 seconds. That's not enough time, someone said. It is, Mara replied. Move. They moved. The shelter held. The simulation continued for hours. Fatigue set in. Mistakes happened. Mara corrected them without blame. Her voice never rose. Her tone never changed. By the end, the environment stabilized. Casualties were minimal. Objectives completed. The simulation ended. The lights returned to normal. The air felt lighter, as if the station itself had been holding its breath. No one cheered. They just stood there, quiet, looking at the human lieutenant who had guided them through disaster like it was routine. The senior commander approached Mara slowly. You could have taken full command authority, he said. You didn't. Mara met his gaze. Authority doesn't save lives. Decisions do. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded once. The results were posted later that day. Mara Cade ranked first overall. Not by points alone, but by something the Academy rarely measured. Survival. The official report spread quickly through Union channels. It was dry, careful, stripped of emotion, but officers read between the lines. Human, lieutenant, command capable under extreme conditions. Quiet. Requests came in. Observers, attachés, invitations. Mara declined them all. She stood once more at the viewport, watching the gas giant turn. The colors shifted slowly, endlessly. Beautiful. Indifferent. Administrator Hessian approached, stopping a respectful distance away. They want to make you an example, he said quietly. Mara did not turn. I know. They want to show what humans can do. Mara's reflection stared back at her in the glass. Tired eyes, steady hands. Humans don't need examples, she said. They need to be understood. Hessian hesitated. And what should they understand? Mara thought of lost ships, of voices that had gone silent, of decisions made with no good options. That we are not loud because survival taught us to listen, she said. That we are not cruel because we remember what it costs. And that when things fall apart, we do not freeze. Hessian nodded slowly. No one will bully you here again. Mara allowed herself a small, humorless smile. They never really were. Her transfer orders arrived the next morning. A new assignment, joint operations, advisory role, high risk. She packed her single bag. As she left the academy, cadets lined the corridor. Not in formation, just standing there, watching. One of them stepped forward. The armored cadet, who had once blocked her path. We were wrong, he said. Mara paused. You learned, she replied. That's enough. She walked on. Behind her, the academy returned to its routines. Training continued. Lessons were taught. But something fundamental had changed. Humanity was no longer seen as weak, not because of strength, but because when everything went wrong, a human had stood up, stayed calm, and guided everyone else through the dark. Far away, in places that would never know her name, commanders would one day ask a simple question when disaster struck. Is there a human available? And when the answer was yes, fear would ease just a little. Mara Cade boarded a transport shuttle and took her seat. As the station pulled away, she closed her eyes and rested her head back. She was still quiet, still controlled, still carrying memories that would never leave. But she was moving forward, and that, more than anything, was what made humanity dangerous. Not because they loved war, but because they survived it and learned